Welcome everybody to this United Robots webinar today. We're going to learn about how the Swedish news curation service Omni is working to cover the Corona story. My name is Cecilia Campbell and I am head of marketing for United Robots. So today I'm joined by Henning Johannesson, who is our Chief Product Officer, and I'm down in Malmö, he's up north in Örnsköldsvik, about 1,000 kilometers north of here. And pretty much in between is Matilda Glaser, who is our guest today and works as a journalist at Omni. Before we start, so a big welcome to you, Matilda, of course. Nice to have you here. Before we start, just a couple of housekeeping points. This seminar is a bit different. It's mainly in the form of Q&A, and the whole idea is that everyone can ask Matilda questions. So to do this, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, not the chat, and we'll try and get everything answered. And after the webinar, you will get a link to the recording, and you will also get the deck. And of course, you can get in touch anytime afterwards with any questions that you might have. So the idea behind this webinar is to do something a bit constructive in a challenging time. And at United Robots, we're acutely aware of the challenges facing our publishing partners, not least financially, mainly in the form of disappearing ad revenues. But also in newsrooms around the world, journalists are working harder than ever to get the right information out to readers and viewers quickly and in the right way. So today, we've got a story about just such a newsroom. The team at Omni pulled together stories from Swedish and international news sites and other sources. They write short summaries, they provide links to the original source, and they publish primarily through a very well-designed mobile app. How they do this is a super interesting story in itself, but today we're going to focus on how they have organized their work around the biggest story any of them have probably ever covered. So one of the tools they use to help them in this work is the Corona Watch, Coronakollen in Swedish, a news desk alerts tool developed and supported by United Robots. And before we dive into the story of Omni and the Q&A with Matilda, let me just say a few words about us and this tool. So if you're not familiar with our company, we were born out of a project at Swedish local media group Mittmedia. So we very much have our roots in journalism. Our core business is to use structured data and natural language generation to provide automated editorial text to our publisher partners. So we're a company based in tech, but what we provide is editorial content, so like an extension of the newsroom. And it was in this role as a newsroom collaborators that on March 5th, we were approached by Omni's sister publication, Aftonbladet, who we worked with for a couple of years, about the possibility of pulling together a feed for the news desk of all their Corona-related sources. So we got it up and running that first day, and over the first week, it generated 158 notifications, which turned into numerous updates on Aftonbladet's live Corona feed and some subsequent articles. So Corona Watch is part of our wider Breaking Desk news desk tool. This came about as a sort of side product of our automatically published articles, because sometimes there may be sources and data which are highly relevant for the newsroom, but not really reliable enough to turn into auto-published text. So instead, the news desk is alerted, which allows the reporters to pick up the story, fact check, and then they can write the article rather than the robot doing it. We set up these breaking news desks, we set them up with any type of sources that the newsroom asks for, like the police or emergency services, authority websites, or whatever it may be. And key here is also that we provide continuous maintenance of the sources in the feed, because right now websites and other sources are kind of in constant flux because the available data changes and so on. So it's key to keep an eye on all of it to make sure nothing important gets missed. I'm not going to go deeper into this right here, but we will add some additional info in the slide deck that we send out. So let's talk about Omni instead. It's really nice to have you here, Matilda. Welcome.
Thank you.
Maybe you would like to just tell us a little bit about your background first, and then I'll let you talk about your company as well.
Yeah, so I've been working at Omni since around 2015. Before that, I worked at Swedish public television, SVT. I was drawn to Omni, I think, because it's a very modern and young company in a lot of ways. We are quick to try new things and quick to adapt. And personally, I think we've proven that these last couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
And also, of course, as a journalist, I love working in the fast pace of news. So yeah, and I've been working as a news editor for a lot of years, but right now I'm actually filling in as an editorial manager for Omni, which means that pretty much the first thing that I got to do in my new job was to pack up the entire news desk and send all the editors home, because we've been working completely remote for about a month now.
Yeah. What date was that?
March 11th.
Yeah. It was a lot happened that week, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a crazy week.
Yeah. Okay, so Omni was founded in 2013.
Yeah, exactly. So Omni is actually two apps. We have two different services. It's just Omni, which is our regular news app that covers everything from national, international news, sports, culture, and of course economy as well. But then we have Omni Economy, which is another app that focuses completely on economy and finance. And then of course we collaborate and share a lot of material with one another. So Omni, regular Omni, so to speak, was founded in 2013 and Omni Economy in 2017.
Mm-hmm. And we have all the numbers here. So there are editors only, there are not just reporters, but everybody's an editor basically.
Yeah, exactly. So everyone, it's a really a flat organization in the sense that everyone is an editor, everyone writes, everyone makes every editor does everything from finding content to writing to packaging it in adding images and everything, making it work on the website, and especially we don't have a news manager or someone who stands in the middle of the news desk and tells everyone what to do. That's a collaborative thing as well.
That's okay. All right. Yeah. So we're talking about the product now, of course, which consists of summaries.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So what we do is that we, based on various sources, of course, other news outlets is one of our primary sources, but we also find our news everywhere from social media to different kinds of live reports, press conferences, press releases, earnings reports, everything basically from all around the world, nationally and internationally. And we summarize and curate that into very short, very concise articles. And below the article, we refer to various sources where the user can choose to dive deeper and learn more about the subject.
Yeah. Right. So let's move on to the story of today. Obviously, the corona coverage. Now, that you could see, you could see if it wasn't hidden by the screens, but the page views really took off that week in March.
Yeah, definitely. And it's the same thing as you could see on the slide before, with our unique users, our traffic numbers, everything has just exploded. It's extremely clear that this crisis is something that our readers, our old readers, but also a whole bunch of new readers want to know everything about. So yeah, our page views, for example, have basically doubled from around 25, 30 million per week to around 50 million right now.
So if you would say, when did the story start to really affect the newsroom work, and how did that happen? What was the first impact?
I was actually trying to look back to see like the first article that we wrote about the coronavirus the other day. I couldn't find it, but I think it was sometime during the beginning of January.
Yeah.
But then, just like everyone else, I think both other journalists and the public, it was really hard to tell for a long time how big this would actually get.
Yeah.
We did cover, since we focus quite a lot on international news, we did cover the outbreak in China very closely from the start. But we had a lot of discussions about, like, are we doing too much of this? Like, are we becoming alarmists, or should we give this kind of focus? And we decided quite early to cover the crisis pretty, like, quite a lot, and looking back, that turned out to be the right decision. But it was hard to tell in the beginning how much focus to give it.
Yeah, I bet. What were the main challenges, would you say, at that point? Like, what decisions did you make, and what did you have to do internally?
Yeah, one of them was definitely like trying to decide how much to focus on this, because of course if we write a lot about it and give it a lot of attention, then we send the signal to our users that this is something that's really, really big, and that's of course always something that you have to think about, because you can scare people and make them worried. But so that was definitely one thing, and then. But in a lot of ways also, I think that Omni, the way we work and the way we work regularly, is quite well suited to handling these kinds of situations, since we're already so used to handling and processing like enormous amounts of information, and every editor does that daily and kind of filters through it and tries to make something like very concise about that topic. So in that way, it wasn't that big of a change in how we worked, I would say, but definitely that we had to work a lot more.
Yeah. So if we talk about the Corona Watch, the news desk tool, so how did that come about? I guess you might have seen it at Aftonbladet, or? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, we were definitely inspired by Aftonbladet. We heard that they had this tool, and we felt instantly that this is something that we need to have as well. And looking back, we should definitely have had it in place earlier. Mm-hmm. We should have had that idea much earlier, because in the Swedish context, like for the first couple of days or weeks, every single new person that was infected, and especially every single death, was breaking news in its own. It's not in the same way at this point. And the way, like because the Corona Watch makes us able to get like press releases and news from the like local health authorities, national health authorities, and so on, straight into Slack, which is one of our primary working tools, which makes it, it really helps us. And in hindsight, it would have helped us a lot in the beginning. So I wish we had it even sooner, actually.
Matilda, can I jump in here? I bet you have kind of these kind of tools, maybe not like the one we have, but the TweetDeck and those kind of tools. I bet you use them. What do you say is the difference between those and this one?
We definitely use TweetDeck, and especially we use like our own CMS, where we have content from a lot of different, especially news sources. And I think that's the difference here, that we have a really well-built system for getting news sources into our regular feeds, but we didn't have that in place for these kinds of press releases and information from local authorities. So that was really where we were lacking at that point.
Yeah. Okay.
So this traffic started to take off. Has this story changed how you communicate with readers?
Yeah, we have really dedicated readers, and we've always had, and we do communicate with them quite a lot in general. But I would definitely say that we have seen a huge surge in the amount of like spontaneous feedback that we get from our readers. Mm-hmm. And it's been, in general, it's been extremely, like, overwhelmingly positive. And like daily we get emails from readers that are just emailing us to say, thank you for doing an amazing job, and thank you for helping me feel updated and feel like I know what's going on in Sweden and in the rest of the world. And as a journalist, you're not that used to getting spontaneous positive feedback, I would say. So that's something that has really stood out.
Have you seen it in the usage as well? Have you seen any difference? I know, for example, in your app, you've got a very clever thing where you can weight the kinds of stories you want most of. Has that been affected in any way? Have you seen any trends there?
Yeah, exactly. The coronavirus story, like the general coronavirus story that includes everything written about the coronavirus, is by miles and miles the most followed story that we've ever had. And then we have all of these like subcategories. This is a bit technical, but then we have like a coronavirus, and then we have like the virus outbreak in Sweden, the financial effects, the virus outbreak in Spain, like all of these different subcategories, and all of them have just exploded. So, and we can also
you can follow each of these.
Yeah, you can follow them, and you can get, like, if you want to, you can get like notifications every time something is updated in a specific story or tag that you're following.
Yeah, okay.
As well.
Have you seen people who don't want this content?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's of course, it's not just positive feedback. We get all different kinds of feedback. And one of the recurring things is definitely that some people write to us and they say, like, is there any way I can filter out everything written about Corona, because I can't stand reading about this anymore? Mm-hmm. So there are definitely people like that, but when getting that kind of feedback, you also have to go back and look at the numbers, look at how many new people are reading our app right now and how many people are reading in general. So I would say that the great majority of our readers just can't get enough of reading about the coronavirus.
And of course, maybe it's not such a good idea to filter out everything if you want to.
I think it's hard. Like we have different functions where you can kind of weigh which categories you want to read more about. You can say that you don't want that much sports or you don't want that much culture. But personally, and I think that's our general, or it is our general stand as well, that it's really hard to be a news product where you're able to filter out everything about this big a news story. Yeah, I think that kind of defeats our purpose of providing news and information. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're moving into the second quarter now of this story. Like, what lessons have been learned? Like, are there any permanent changes to how Omni thinks and operates?
I not that, like, something major that I can think of. I think one important thing for us is that we've definitely proven to ourselves that we really are like a lean organization, that we're actually able to do these kinds of changes. For example, everyone from one day to the next, everyone started working from home and that it actually works. That's a really big lesson for us. And at this point, I can't really say how that will affect how we work and what we do in the future, but it's definitely something that we've realized and like proven to ourselves. Then I also think that we've learned lessons that probably most journalists have, is that we've never covered a pandemic before. Like we've never covered even like this big medical situation that's this big and affects so many people and has so many aspects to it. So just having done that and taken a lot of lessons from that is definitely something that will help us in the future. Hopefully we won't have to cover this again, but
yeah. So do you have you got medical reporters with, or journalists with medical expertise, or how has anybody taken the lead on that?
No, unfortunately we don't. Like everyone everyone at Omni are, of course, people are especially interested in certain topics, and we try to kind of have a lot of different people with a lot of different competences, of course. But no, I'm sad to say, because of course, that would have benefited us quite a lot in this case and in a lot of other cases. And that's probably like a problem with journalism today in general, that a lot of the like specialist competence has been kind of on decline. And a lot of us, like me, are these kind of general reporters that know a little about everything, but not that much about anything.
But I guess partly that problem is solved by the fact that you're always linking to the original source.
Yeah, definitely. We try to rely like really heavily to the reliable sources, and of course that's another really big part of this, that we can't just write about any. Like we really try to be very specific with like what kinds of sources that we use, both like official sources, of course, but also reliable news sources and so on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's hard. It's definitely not perfect, and this has probably shown for us and a lot of other companies that like scientific and medical expertise is definitely something that is lacking for a lot of newsrooms, I think.
Yeah. So if we look at this, how you gather information and the Corona Watch, that type of tool, could you see that being used in other scenarios? What types of stories would that be helpful? If you think back on what you've covered over the last 5 years at your time at Omni, like, are there situations where that would have been a good idea?
At the top of my head, I would say like the really big forest fires that have been during a couple of summers back has been like the big news story during the summer in Sweden. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely a case that in a way is kind of similar to this, in that a lot of the information comes from like local authorities all around the country. So it's not just one authority where you can go and get everything, but it's kind of, you want to know what's happening up north and down south and everywhere in between, and kind of collect that information, both to identify like specific local stories, but also to get the bigger picture. Yeah. So that's definitely something, I think.
How important do you think it's been that you've had the team at United Robots maintaining the sources and keeping on top of it?
Really important, because I've been able to add stuff. Like I've been responsible for this from my team, and I've been talking to them quite a lot and asking them about what they like about what they get in Slack right now, if there is something that they want added and so on. And we did add, I think it was the other week, we managed to add, or you guys added the like public health authority, Folkhälsomyndigheten in Sweden, their like they have one like web page where they update all the numbers about infected and deaths and trends and so on.
All right.
And we managed to get that into Slack so that every time it's updated, we get a notification in Slack about that. And that's done at the same time when the daily press briefing is held, which is basically the daily press briefing at 2 p.m. Has been like
every day.
all of Sweden is watching, and we know that we will have to be really quick and send out push notifications. And of course, everything has to be correct. So it has been really convenient to kind of get those numbers in there and being able to check that everything is correct and not having to sit and update the website.
Yeah.
Matilda, I understand quickness is really important for you guys and for all the news outlets, national news outlets, to actually be first on a story. Do you see any parts where you can actually develop this tool into maybe publishing kind of a preview story straight into the CMS, so it would be even quicker for you guys?
Yeah, that would definitely be quicker. That's true. So yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't be helped by that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that might be something we should think about in the future.
Yeah. Henning, did you have any other questions?
Not in particular. I'm thinking, Matilda, you're using a lot of in your daily business when we're not talking about the corona. You're using a lot of news outlets. Are you also looking into, if we're talking about sports that I know a lot of, do you look into the homepages of like the elite teams in football, in hockey, and so on? Because I'm thinking this might be a thing we could use for that as well. Just scraping every news that shows up on interesting sources. Maybe not news sources, but other sources.
Absolutely. Or like, and I don't know what's technically possible, but I also feel that like some specific social media channels as well.
Yeah.
Because we don't have, like we have in our CMS, we have the possibility to scrape quite a lot already. But for example, like if, I don't know, Donald Trump's tweets maybe, or there are just too many though. So I don't think that it would just be too much. Our Slack channel would be filled by them. But I mean, like, it's also different, like the different party leaders of Sweden. Ulf Kristersson uses Facebook, Ebba Busch Thor uses Instagram, and so on.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be cool to have them all in the same place as well.
Yeah, because what I actually think we're doing with this tool, we're actually saving the F5 buttons on all computers. Because that's otherwise what you use to update the site, see if anything new has come up in the latest seconds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
No more questions from me here. Yeah, I have one here. One question from Mohammed here. When you're posting all these updates regularly, how do you make sure you're able to weed out false information from proper journalism to make sure you aren't causing harm?
That's a really good question. It's a really good question, and it's definitely one of the most important things that we always need to handle. And it's not there is like an easy answer, and then there are a lot of gray areas, of course. Like the easiest answer would be that we only refer to what we would judge as reliable sources, so to speak. If I and then of course we know about a lot of reliable sources, and it can be local authorities as well as big news media outlets that we know of, and we know that they are not like politically skewed in some way, or owned by the state or something like that. But then, I mean, first of all, they can have done mistakes as well. So it definitely doesn't guarantee that we won't make mistakes. But then, I mean, we also always try to just as any journalist, like always look at like the idea of like having two sources undependable of another, for example. It's like a general rule of thumb in journalism, I would say, that we try to look for. But of course, all of this is really hard, and it's probably become even harder because of, like Henning said, the focus on speed all the time. So it's definitely hard, and we have a lot of discussions on the news desk about it constantly, and try to help each other make good decisions.
Well, it seems like you're doing a good job. We're getting so much new traffic, and I know you're asking people to support you as well.
Yeah.
As we know, ad business is challenged right now. So I would encourage people to support Omni, because it's been a fantastic source for us here in Sweden this spring, I have to say.
Thank you
so much for joining us, Matilda.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Work.
It's fun.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
See you
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.